Welcome to the podcast Human Relationships. Ανθρώπων σχέσεις. Hello and welcome. I'm Ioannis Teropoulos and this is Ανθρώπων σχέσεις. Human Relationships. Here we explore the psychology of relationships, the pressures of modern life, and how we can connect in a more meaningful way with ourselves and with other people, with poetry as our starting point. Welcome to another episode of Human Relationships, where today we touch the theme of loss. Loss is one of the deepest and most inevitable experiences of life. Whether it is the death of a loved one, the end of a relationship, the loss of a job, or even the loss of a part of ourselves, the pain is real. But what do we do when life changes forever? When the end of a loved one is final? How do we continue? Today, we will talk about the road of healing through psychological approaches, scientific research, and the art of poetry. There are some moments in life that divide it into before and after. The death of a loved one is exactly that, the point of no return. Loss changes us deeply. It affects the way we perceive the world, our relationships, and our very self. Today, we will talk about pain that has no easy answers. We will analyze the psychology of loss, the theories around grief, and above all, how we move forward when what we lost does not come back. So, let's draw knowledge from science, poetry, and people's experiences, because life goes on, but in what way? Let's start with the psychology of loss. The loss of a loved one is one of the deepest and most difficult experiences of human existence. Psychology, neuroscience, and sociology have researched extensively the way we react, adapt, and make meaning of grief. Here we examine three of the most foundational theories and research strands on the subject. First, the theory of the 5 stages of grief by Elizabeth Kubler-Ross. The Swiss-American psychiatrist Elizabeth Kubler-Ross, 1926 to 2004, developed the theory of the 5 stages of grief in her book On Death and Dying. The theory was based initially on interviews with terminally ill patients and was later adapted for those experiencing the loss of loved ones. The 5 stages of grief are: 1. Denial. The first unconscious defense mechanism against painful reality. A person may think, this can't be happening, it's a mistake, it's wrong. Denial reduces the initial shock, allowing the brain to adjust gradually. Many bereaved people continue to speak to their loved one, to expect them to return, or to believe they will wake up and everything will be as it was before. Stage 2. Anger. Reality is now perceived, and the reaction is rage. Why me? Why did they leave so early? It can be directed to ourselves, doctors, friends, or even the person who died. Anger is normal and shows that grief is unfolding. Stage 3. Bargaining. It often appears with thoughts such as, if I had done something differently, they would still be alive. Religious people may make deals with God such as, if I become a better person, maybe I'll see them again in paradise. Bargaining is an attempt to regain control and reduce pain. Stage 4, depression. Here, deep sadness appears and the realization that the loss is final. A person may isolate, feel emptiness, and lose interest in life. Society often pressures mourners to get over pain quickly, but this is counterproductive. And stage 5, acceptance. It does not mean the pain disappears, but that the person finds a way to integrate the loss into the life. They are no longer here, but the memories will live forever. People who reach this stage begin to find new meaning and to participate again in life. Important, the 5 stages are not linear. Someone may experience anger before denial or return to depression after acceptance. Now, let's move to Harvard Medical School research from 2020, How Loss Changes the Brain. Research from Harvard Medical School showed that loss does not only affect our psychology, but also the biological functioning of the brain. And some of the key findings are: the prefrontal cortex weakens. The prefrontal cortex is responsible for decision-making, logical thinking, and concentration. During periods of grief, its activity decreases, resulting in difficulty concentrating, solving problems, and carrying out daily tasks. Increased cortisol, the stress hormone. The brain responds to loss as if facing severe trauma. The body enters a fight or flight state, causing exhaustion, anxiety, and physical symptoms. Activation of the hypothalamus and amygdala, the emotional center of the brain. The hypothalamus and the amygdala are regions linked with fear, pain, and memories. Research showed that bereaved people experience intense flashbacks and difficulty processing their emotions. Disruptions to circadian rhythm, sleep, and energy. Lack of sleep, fatigue, and difficulty resting are common side effects of grief. This explains why many bereaved people feel physical exhaustion. So, what does this mean for daily life? Bereaved people often feel they are losing themselves or that they cannot concentrate. These changes are biological and the brain needs time to return to its normal functioning. Beyond any single institution's summary, grief research across neuroscience and health psychology consistently reports that bereavement can involve stress system activation, sleep disruption, impaired concentration, and bodily symptoms. In other words, what we feel in grief is not just emotional, it is also physiological, and it deserves time and care. Now, let's see the brain in a state of grief from the University College London research from 2021. Grief is not only an emotional experience, it affects the whole brain and body. Research from UCL in 2021 showed that the brain responds to loss in the same way it responds to physical pain, causing specific biological changes. Neuroscience of grief, why loss hurts literally. UCL scientists used functional MRI, fMRI, to examine the brains of people experiencing intense grief. And the results showed 3 core effects. 1. Grief resembles physical pain. Grief activates the same neural networks as physical pain, especially in the anterior cingulate cortex, ACC. This region is activated when we experience intense physical pain, burning, cutting, for example, and then we feel social rejection or loss. This explains why the death of a loved one hurts in a very real way, because the brain interprets it as an attack on our existence. 2. A typical example is people who recently experienced the loss of a loved one often report physical symptoms such as chest pain, broken heart, muscle aches and fatigue, difficulty breathing or tightness in the throat, nausea, and headaches. Conclusion: the pain of loss is both psychological and physiological. Second, hormonal storm, cortisol and adrenaline. Grief triggers the stress response system with two main hormones rising sharply. Cortisol, the stress hormone. Cortisol increases in periods of danger or shock. In intense grief, the body reacts as if under attack, releasing excessive cortisol. This can lead to increased anxiety and worry, sleep disruption, insomnia or hypersomnia, memory and concentration problems, weakened immune response because the body remains under continuous strain, and adrenaline, the fight or flight hormone. The brain perceives loss as a threat and increases adrenaline production. This can cause panic sensations or a knot in the stomach, increased heart rate, and sudden mood changes. Typical example: many people report that in the first months after a major loss, they feel constantly on alert as if expecting something bad to happen. This is linked to increased adrenaline, which keeps the body in a fight or flight state. Conclusion: grief is a severe form of stress that burdens both the nervous and hormonal systems. And 3, reduced activity in the prefrontal cortex. The prefrontal cortex regulates logical thinking, self-control, and concentration. During grief, its activity decreases, resulting in difficulty making decisions, even about simple things like what to eat, a sense of confusion and brain fog, loss of interest in the future, and emotional swings, from crying to sudden detachment. Typical example: people in heavy grief often say, "I can't concentrate on anything. I keep forgetting things. I'm just existing without knowing what to do." This cognitive fog is completely normal and relates to reduced prefrontal cortex activity. Conclusion: grief temporarily changes brain function, making thinking and decision making difficult. So, what can we do to face the neurological effects of grief? A. Accept the confusion. Recognize your mind is overloaded. Don't pressure yourself to function normally. B. Small basic steps. Focus on essentials: food, sleep, simple routines. C. Physical activity. Gentle movement, such as walking, helps reduce cortisol. D. Deep breathing and meditation reduce adrenaline and improve mental clarity. E. Social support. Talking with friends can reduce stress and support regulation. And F. Patience with yourself. Your brain needs time to recover. And of course, if you're really struggling with grief, you can speak with a mental health professional. Conclusion: grief is also neurological. Loss does not only affect feelings, but also the brain and body. These neuroscientific changes explain why we feel tired, anxious, and disoriented. The key is to understand these reactions are normal and to give ourselves time and care. What do you think about this? Have you experienced any of these symptoms? Let's now see the continuing bonds theory by Klass and Silverman. Traditional grief psychology believed a person had to accept the loss and move on, leaving the deceased behind. The continuing bonds argues the opposite. We don't get over loss, we learn to live with it. The bond with the deceased does not stop, but it transforms. And some ways people continue the bond. Keep objects of the deceased, clothes, letters, photos. Also, speak to the deceased internally or write letters to them. Integrate aspects of their personality into your life. And finally, maintain rituals that connect you, visiting a shared favorite place, for example. So, modern psychology now accepts this theory, recognizing that grief does not end, but changes form. And now let's see the dual process model of grief by Margaret Strobe and Henk Schutt. The loss of a loved one causes deep emotional and psychological upheaval. However, the grieving process is not linear. The dual modal process proposes that grief alternates between two states. 1. Loss-oriented coping. 2. Restoration-oriented coping. Adaptation moves dynamically between these two states, allowing a person to grieve and also to continue life. First, loss-oriented coping. In this state, a person sinks into the sadness of the loss, recalls memories with a loved one, experiences intense emotions such as pain, loneliness, emptiness, etc., and may feel guilt or a strong desire to keep the loved one's memory alive. Behavior examples: crying, emptiness, isolation, repeated thinking about the loss, visiting places connected to the loved one, reading all messages or looking at photos. Neurobiologically, this phase is linked to activation of the limbic system, which governs emotion and memory. And number 2, restoration-oriented coping. In this state, a person turns towards life and routine, regains balance, focuses on responsibilities and activities, faces new tasks and challenges without the loved one, develops new interests and relationships. And some behavior examples: returning to work or study, social contact and new activities, trying to find new meaning in life. Neurobiologically, this phase involves activation of the prefrontal cortex, linked with decision-making and self-control. So, the natural oscillation between the two states. The key to adaptation is balance between both states. A person is not stuck only in sorrow, but also does not completely avoid loss. An important observations here: there is no right or wrong way to grieve. Everyone experiences grief at their own pace, and gradually returning to life does not mean forgetting the loved one. So, a question for you: have you noticed this oscillation in yourself between loss and returning to life? And now, let's move into the poetry section. As I often say, poetry can hold what we struggle to say directly: absence, memory, love that continues, and the quiet transformation of grief. For today's episode, I chose a poem that is widely considered public domain and speaks gently about death as a crossing rather than an end. It is Alfred Lord Tennyson's Crossing the Bar from 1889. Crossing the Bar, Alfred Lord Tennyson. sunset and evening star, and one clear call for me. And may there be no moaning of the bar when I put out to sea, but such a tide as moving seems asleep, too full for sound and foam, when that which drew from out the boundless deep turns again home. Twilight and evening bell, and after that the dark. And may there be no sadness of farewell when I embark. For though from out our burn of time and place, the flood may bear me far, I hope to see my pilot face to face when I have crossed the bar. Tennyson does not deny loss, but he changes its image. Death becomes a journey, a crossing, not a disappearance. That matters in grief because the mind often needs a language for what cannot be controlled. Poetry offers meaning without forcing answers. And even if someone is not religious, the poem still speaks to a human wish that what we loved was not meaningless, and that a goodbye can be held with dignity. And now let's return to practical strategies. What we can do day by day to carry loss without erasing the past. Loss is a process that requires time and support. There is no recipe for how to get over loss, but there are strategies and practices that can help us face the challenge of grief in a healthy and effective way. Following are some specific techniques that can strengthen our adaptation to the reality of loss and allow us to continue life. 1. We express the loss. We don't imprison it inside us. Expressing grief is necessary for processing loss. If we try to keep emotions locked inside, they accumulate and may lead to emotional or physical fatigue. Techniques to express loss. Conversation with close people. Talk with someone you trust, such as friends or relatives. Speaking about the loss, the sadness, and what we are experiencing helps release tension and reduce the isolation loss can create. Writing thoughts and memories. Keeping a journal or writing thoughts and emotions is an excellent technique for processing loss. You can write about your loved one, about how you feel, and about the moments that bring you pain or comfort. Writing helps clarify emotions and relieves the brain from overload. 2. We keep small pieces of memory. Keeping small memories of loss can help us personally acknowledge the loss without constantly signing into the past. These symbolic objects or activities can give us a sense of connection to the person we lost, while also helping us accept the new reality. Techniques for keeping memory. An object or a photograph. Keep an object or a photo that connects you to your loved one. For example, a photo, an item of clothing, or a favorite object. This can help you maintain connection without getting stuck in the past. Or a letter. You can write a letter to the person you lost, expressing your feelings and thoughts. Sometimes this can be deeply healing because it allows us to speak to the person we lost without fear of awkwardness or judgment. 3. We give grief time, but we also set goals. Grief requires time and there is no specific recovery timetable. No one can tell us when we will be okay. However, we can set small goals that help us move forward daily and regain balance. Some strategies for setting goals. Small daily steps. Try to take small steps every day. These might include going for a short walk, contacting a friend, or doing something that interests you, reading, work, writing, etc. These small actions help us restore daily structure and regain a sense of control. Of course, set realistic goals. Do not pressure yourself to be okay too quickly. Set goals such as returning to an activity that once gave you joy or beginning to socialize again gently. Over time, these goals can help rebuild your life. 4. The power of community, supportive groups. Social groups is crucial during grief. Support from other people who have been through similar experiences or who are simply present to listen can offer relief and understanding. Strategies to strengthen social support. Support groups, in person or online. Taking part in a grief support group, whether in person or online, can be decisive. These groups offer a space to express thoughts and listen to others who are going through something similar. In such groups, we can share memories and feelings and learn ways to continue life. Online groups offer flexible support, allowing communication from home at any time. Also, conversation with friends and family. Don't be afraid to ask for help from close people who understand the meaning of loss. The people who love you can offer emotional support and help you regain balance. In summary, the expressive process of grief, keeping small memories and setting goals are foundational steps in facing loss. Social support from friends, family, or support groups can strengthen resilience and support rebuilding after loss. Time, patience, and small daily steps are the key to moving forward in grief in the best possible way. Has any of these strategies helped you in processing your own loss? And before we go, as always, I'll leave you with some thoughts. Take these questions with you and maybe answer them now, write them down, or think about them while doing any of your tasks. What does loss mean to you? What is the biggest lesson life taught you through a loss? And how do you keep the memory of those who are gone or of experiences that ended? Reply me on Instagram, by email, or simply leave me your comments down this podcast in the platform you are listening to. I really want to hear your thoughts. Let's close today's episode by summarizing what we've learned. Loss is a universal experience, but each of us lives it differently. Psychology tells us we don't get over loss, we transform it into part of our new identity. Memory is our way of keeping loved ones close. Poetry, as we saw, is a way to express the unsayable. And finally, there are practical ways to move forward without erasing the past. So, if you found this episode helpful, share it with someone who needs it. Follow the podcast on Spotify and find the Instagram and email in this episode description. Until the next episode, take care of yourself, take care of your memories, and for more reflections on human relationships, stay tuned. Take care.